We're back for round number 4 of live coverage here at the inaugural TCG Player Invitational Qualifier hosted by Apex Gaming. I'm Tandy, joined by Mason Clark. Say hi, Mason.
Hi, Mason.
All right, these players are just about ready to go for round number 4, so let's head on down to the feature match area and we'll talk about their decks while they're getting their mulligans situated and all that good stuff. But looks like we're going to be watching Randy Webbing again. He's playing Emerald Amethyst, right?
Yep.
We saw that deck earlier. The one-cost Pascals looked quite strong. We'll see if he's able to leverage them again. He's going to be fighting Matthew Campo on Ruby Amethyst Aggro. You don't see too many Ruby Amethyst Aggro decks.
Yeah, as I say, I think it might be control. It might have just been a little bit of a typo there from looking at the deck list.
Would you say that that's a whoopsie poopsie?
Oopsie poopsie. I had an oopsie poopsie.
What if we hybridize them?
Whoopsie moopsie.
No. All right, whatever. All right, as these players are mulliganing, why don't you give us a look at what you think is going to happen in... All right, so just so you know, Mr. Director, you changed the name of the person to Ruby Amethyst Control, just foie gras. All right, we fixed it. Look, it's been a day. Things keep crashing. You know, it's rough.
It happens. No worries. These sort of things are to be expected every now and again. But yeah, one of the things that you mentioned, like what I think is going to happen here. Ruby Amethyst needs stuff like Gaston early. Get maybe an early Aladdin, Maui control, and then sort of use a Be Prepared to swing in card advantage. And then that way the Emerald Amethyst aggro deck can't really do much. And Matthew, maybe not knowing what he's playing against, inks a Gaston. So if Randy knows that Matthew knows, that's a good sign of another Gaston. If not, then you're going to be fist bumping over there from Randy. Important to note, too, Randy is 3-0 and Matthew is 2-1. Whoever wins this is probably a lock for our top 8. So sort of a very high tense matchup here.
All right, first play of the game is going to be on Randy Webbing's turn 1, and that's a Duke, the Green Goon. This one costs 2/2, quest for 1, a generic card, but great at playing defense early against opposing 1-drops while also giving you a punish if your opponent doesn't play a 1 or 2-drop themselves. Matthew Campo, though, can challenge it next turn with something like Rafiki if he has it. We'll see if he wants to go questing and open himself up to it, and he does.
Yep. These sort of, like you call them goons, the 1 ink 2/2/1s, they are nice because against decks like Lilo and into the Amethyst decks that have the 1-drop Maleficent, they can control those things and trade, which are good. And then they just are ink the rest of the time, right? And as we do see Archimedes here from Matthew get inked, which is that version of the same card. It just really changed the dynamic of everything as Aladdin comes down and we're back to zeros.
Yep. And now Aladdin doing its best impression of gaining some life by taking the quest lore counter away from Randy. And it's also a 2/2 body, so it lines up nicely against Flynn Rider, as well as trades with the Duke, depending on how Randy wants to quest this turn.
And if you're Randy, we saw Randy play around Aladdin round 1 when it comes to shift Aladdin. So we might see a similar thing happen here where, we might lose this Finn Rider, make it so Matthew discards a card, but then we're probably going to trade in for this Aladdin, which will make it a 2-for-1 if that does happen.
All right. Back Matthew's way. We'll see what the play is. We can challenge the Flynn Rider and discard one of these high-cost uninkables. We're going to start with Brave Little Taylor as ink. Pocket Watch doesn't do anything this turn. We're going to be looking for something with Rush would be nice.
Yeah, I almost wonder if you're
Pass the
Matthew.
turn.
Yeah, you just do nothing, hold the Pocket Watch, guarantee the ink because your hand is high on uninkables, shift your Aladdin, and just eat one of the things next turn and get that huge switch up on lore there.
All right, here's the friends on the other side. Randy Webbing going to be drawing 2 cards with that Maleficent Sorceress. We can still quest for 3, putting Randy up to 6, and deploy a few more threats. Campo does have the Aladdin guarantee next turn, unless Randy has some way to stifle it, but that would require something like Mother Knows Best and most of Randy's turn to do it.
Yeah, it looks like we are going to quest for 3 here.
All right, there's 4 cost Emerald Tinkerbell. This has Evasive, a very cool card because sometimes when it comes down, it actually can grant Evasive to your opponent's bodyguard characters, which makes you unable to challenge them, which allows you to challenge some of the other characters that the bodyguards would be protecting. It also can grant Evasive to one of your characters in play, so it can challenge an opposing Evasive character on the turn you play it. A lot to love about the 4 cost Tinkerbell. But here's 7 cost Aladdin Heroic Outlaw. This is going to shift onto the baby Aladdin, and now it can attack. It's going to eat up one of these opposing characters on Randy's side of things and gain 2 lore while stealing 2 lore in the process.
I think we might be singing because Matthew's whole hand is 7 drops and higher with no ink.
You want to sing what? You want to
Be
sing?
prepared.
I think attacking is very be prepared esque. Being able to eat something and gain or like take 2 lore away just creates more incentive for Randy to continue playing more things out.
Sure,
Yeah,
that's
it looks
fair.
all right. We're gonna attack and discard an Ursula, and that's gonna gain us 2 lore and only put 1 damage on it. Ah, come on, Spotter. We gotta get those big dice.
Yeah, get them big dice on there. Yeah,
Little dice are banned. Little dice are
Dr-
banned in the feature match area.
draining lore, is good. I don't know. I think Matthew's going to need the top of the deck to have a lot of ink for the next couple turns.
All right. Well, we're gonna double trade. That's gonna get that Aladdin off the table, but the damage is done. We're gonna quest with the Tinkerbell, keeping the pressure up, and deploy Cheshire Cat and another Flynn Rider. So a lot of pressure here from Randy. And now we're a little far away from being able to play Be Prepared, but we're getting kind of close.
Yeah, we found Maleficent for ink, and we have Magic Mirror. So we do have the turn 6 play mirror draw a card, and that should hopefully allow us to find some ink, even if maybe next turn our whole turn is just drawing another card.
Now, if you're Randy, you got to know that the jig's probably up. You're playing against Ruby. There's 6 ink on the table, and you are very far ahead. We're going to quest all the way up to 12, it looks like. And Matthew Campo here going to need some help. Yeah, I believe our spotter missed 2 lore from last turn, so it should be 12. Yeah.
Yeah. I think one thing too to note here is that Matthew shifted Aladdin and then stopped to think, which in like is a pretty big hint that Be Prepared's in hand, right? Like, why would you stop to think your Aladdin's only going to kill something, right? So Randy might even be picking up on that along with just the normal turn 7 stuff. And your plays really do tell a lot about what you do and don't do to your opponents. As we are going to ink a Maui, but unlocking Be Prepared in exchange.
Yeah, and this is playing around Sweepers 101. If you are coming from a Magic background, you know all about trying to play around Supreme Verdict, Wrath of God, Damnation. In Lorcana, there's really only a few sweepers that exist, but when your opponent has nothing and they hit their 6th ink and just play nothing, and you have a board full of characters, it's pretty much guaranteed that they're going to be playing Be Prepared on the following turn.
Agreed. As we are going to see Ursula come down and, knock off a damage there for Randy, give Matthew a little bit of room and replace itself. So looks like we drew the dragon and we have Elsa in hand. So
yeah, I think we're just taking on whether or not to play the dragon as an ink. I think not as good. You can always play next turn to guarantee ink 8 for 8-drop Elsa.
agreed.
All right. Question for 3 up to 14.
And we have some Cusco's in hand, which are going to get you a lot of lore. It might actually be over if we don't try to Be Prepared. It looks like we're going to go with the Hatter instead. And
so this is super smart from Randy. So he's not deploying Cusco because Cusco has Ward. And at the moment, one of the easiest ways to clear for Matthew is going to be a second copy of Be Prepared. If you look at the characters in play, the only ones exerted have Evasive, and the Ursula can't challenge them, as well as things like Maui and other Rush characters can't challenge them either.
Yeah, really heads up play there. We do have Elsa in hand from Matthew. If we want to ink the dragon, we know the inkable is a way to tap down 2 things and make it so they do not untap. But interesting to see sort of how it plays.
All right. Well, Randy is going to be able to quest for 3 next turn with those evasive characters. Sorry, excuse me.
You're all good. Matthew has friends on the other side, so I think that's what we're thinking about now is maybe we're just going to sing using Ursula and try and find some for weaker early cards like Archimedes to become our ink.
Yeah, that's heads up play from Matthew Campo.
Another Aladdin. We can get out of this. That would be a good card to find.
Card is usually quite good, but with Randy having a bunch of evasive characters on the table, it might not be good enough. And looks like we're thinking about inking this 9-drop dragon, even though we're playing as ink number 8. To me, that means that all we have in hand is non-inkables.
Yeah, it looks like there's 2 Elsas and a Dragonfire, and then the Aladdin we just picked up. So looks like Matthew's maybe valuing the Aladdin as a way to reduce Randy's lore potentially.
All right, so we're going to tap the 2 big ones, and then the Pascal can quest next turn. It still has evasive, so it's going to be hard to get rid of as well. But Campo here starting to build a little bit of a board presence, and now we'll go back Randy's way to see if he can deploy something like Cuzco, which threatens some serious lore generation over the next 2 turns.
Yeah. And this is be prepared or bust, basically. It's not quite there, but you need a card like that this turn if you're going to really stabilize.
Yeah, Tinkerbell is safe-ish. Pascal is relatively safe. You can challenge Mad Hatter. It's going to let Randy draw a card, but the Cusco itself, unless you can kill the Cusco somehow, or the Tinkerbell, or the Pascal, if you can't kill any of them, the game ends.
Mm-hmm. And this is how we see these decks attacking the Ruby Amethyst Menace, right? Matthew here playing the deck everyone calls the best, and it is very, very good. But you can, play some of these Emerald decks and have the creatures that are hard to interact with, and they can buy time, but they really need cards like Be Prepared to leverage themselves to the end game. It looks like we're going to tap down 2 of the evasive creatures.
Okay, and now Elsa is going to eat the Mad Hatter and draw a card. And then Ursula very likely going to be questing here. Could be singing, but questing makes more sense.
Yeah, and that's a great thing to note there, Todd, that we need to quest, even if we have something like Friends on the Other Side, because we need to actually get our lore in a position where Randy doesn't have every character as a lethal draw.
Yeah, so Randy does have another Cusco in hand. If I were Randy, I would just play another Cusco. I think that that's like easiest route to victory is brute force at this point. Going up to 18. Gonna play a Mad Hatter instead. This is gonna maybe leave him vulnerable to Dragonfire. But those 2 evasive characters are still in play, and they're gonna be being able to be ready next turn since they're no longer gonna be frozen from the Elsa.
Yeah, I think Randy was doing what you talked about before about playing around Be Prepared and making it so Be Prepared has to play this turn. Then Randy plays Cusco next turn and says, all right, well, be really prepared and have it again. As Matthew doesn't have it.
No, he does not. Goes to draw a card with the magic mirror, but that's going to put him too low on resources to be able to play it. Could have found it and then used the Ursula or an Elsa to sing it, but it was not to be. And Randy Webbing takes game number 1. As these players reach to shuffle their deck, I was going to say reach for sideboards. We don't have sideboards in this game just yet. I don't know that we're going to. And one thing that leads me to believe is that maybe we should be playing best of 1 rounds of 30 minutes and just playing more rounds. What do you think about that?
I really like the idea of your sideboard cards, and a lot of the tech cards so far have been inkable cards, so you can put them in your main deck. And for that reason, I like playing 2 out of 3 because you will then maybe ink in game 1, like we saw the Gaston there for Matthew, but now Matthew has game 2 and 3 to adapt. And now suddenly, normally I don't ink my Aladdin, but I know my Gaston's really good, right? We see this with the Steel Beast a lot, where really strong against the Ruby Amethyst type strategies, not so great against everything else, but it's sort of your sideboard card in your main because you just need ink to function. So I really like the adaptive nature. And, I played one of these 1Ks in person and mulligan completely differently in game 2 once I knew my opponent was on Amethyst, Amber, Aggro.
Now, does your best of 1 versus best of 3 thoughts change if every event is open deck list, every real event?
Yeah, I think that moves the needle a little bit because then you know what's going on a little bit. I like the adaptation that happens between games, but that definitely would help solve some of the best of 1 and your tech card issues.
Yeah, we're all just speculating. We're all just thinking about the future here. This is nothing to really, get super up in arms about because best of 3 is what many of us are used to from other games that we like. And Those other games utilize many different reasons to play 3 games instead of just 1 game. But to me, in Lorcana, I think actually finishing the game is much more difficult in Lorcana than it is in Magic, simply because of how the score mechanism scales. Something in Magic can have 4 or 5 power for just like 2 or 3 mana, and that can threaten to win the game in just a couple of attacks. Something in Lorcana oftentimes doesn't gain the 3rd point of lore generation until you hit the 4 mana or the 4 ink zone. And anything above that usually only does 2, and then a few of the best cards in the game quest for 3. And sometimes it just literally takes a while to win. And that's one of the reasons why I think 30-minute 1 rounders with maybe Swiss +2 is what I'm looking forward to trying.
Sure. That's totally reasonable. I also think it has to do a lot with we are in just chapter 1 right now, right? And as the cards get stronger, and Lorcana is basically, and it's like, okay, this is sort of a little bit of what our game engine can do. These are some cards. This is pretty exciting. Wait till we start, really powering things up and showing you like what is stable in the game while still strong. And I think that will change things, as every base set game, when you just have the first one, always leans to be slower than average.
All right, I'm going to blow your mind for a second. I think it's the exact opposite. I think the stronger your cards are, I think that the more interactive they're going to be and the bigger they're going to be. And when your characters are largely sized and not largely, like focus on questing and lore, it's going to mean that like you're able to interact with your opponent's stuff more easily, which actually makes games go longer.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they sort of balance the lore knob, right? It's just a thing they can go with. So it really depends on how Ravensburg, which I think I said it correctly this time, wants to go about doing it.
Ravensburger.
Robin. Yeah. Robin.
Ravensburger.
Ravensburger. I'm Robin at the burger.
That's true. All right, we got a couple 1-drops for each player. Campo plays an Archimedes, decides not to quest. Interesting. Randy Webbing going to play Pascal. Let's see if he's able to deploy something to protect it and start questing with Evasive. Here's a Mad Hatter as Ink. Going to quest for 1. And then we're going to play a Protective Duke. This is going to grant Evasive to the Pascal so it can no longer be challenged until the Duke is dead.
Long live the Duke, as the Queen does come down into the ink. And it looks like we maybe have something like Aladdin in hand.
Yeah, 3-cost Aladdin can undo the lore generation from Randy, but that's not going to be it. We're going to play Maleficent, Sorceress, and draw a card. Maybe the best 3-drop in the game. Not only does it replace itself, but it's a body that a body that sings very well. Friends on the Other Side and Mother Knows Best are powerful 3-cost songs, and Maleficent goes great in either of those color combinations because of it.
Maleficent.
Yeah, no kidding. Mirror match. All right, question for 2. Randy up to 3 now. All right, we got to get Matthew to work on the mechanics. Look, it's ready everything, then draw. Ready everything, then draw.
We're going to see Gaston. And Matthew here really appreciating the mid-game power plays and inking a lot of the early cards that you might want to trade off with, because realizes that I need to have these stronger cards for sure happen on curve if I'm going to actually win this game.
All right. So let's see if Randy can start deploying some of these more serious threats. Just some goons trading in the early turns. Pascal still questing. Unfettered. Aladdin effectively gaining a little bit of life here by stealing the lore from Randy. It's just going to keep his lore count low. And here's Friends on the Other Side being sung with Maleficent, Sorceress. We're going to draw 2.
A lot of options open to Randy here. Hasn't done so much, and a lot of the cards have just replaced themselves. So it's going to be interesting to see exactly when he wants to deploy. Now, there's a Mad Hatter in there, which we can set up for next turn, and that's a good way to start, questing and getting a lot of lore.
All right, and here's 4-cost Hans. This is going to quest for 3. So serious damage output from this Hans, a very aggressively slanted character. This Maleficent should be ready on Matthew's side of things. Here we go. And that's what I'm talking about mechanics, because the game is so all over the place in terms of how you sequence things. It's important that you at least start your turn the exact same way, which is ready everything, draw a card. If you go draw a card, then ready everything, and you forget to ready something, well, things might start to get sticky. Your opponent's like, well, did you quest with it? Did you sing with it? What happened?
Mhm. You're really awkward for sure.
All right, here's a Dragonfire that's going to blow up the Hans. Now we're going to do
Okay.
some trading and eating of the Pascal, and this is going to be very bad news for Randy, but he's going to get to ink number 5 next turn and potentially start deploying those Cuscos and the Mad Hatters. We'll see if he's got it.
Yeah, and that was a big turn for Matthew. Every time we've watched Randy play so far, the Pascal has represented 4 to 5 lore over the course of the game, which is huge. And it did get 3 lore this game, which was great. But the difference between like 3 and 5 is massive. So we'll have to see exactly what happens as Rafiki comes down. Oh, just a pass. No ink this turn. Oh, wow. Randy's hand must be full of strong, not inkable cards. We're willing to take a turn off because we just have so many Cusco type cards that's okay to have that happen.
All right, so Matthew Campo here, gonna see if he can deploy something to challenge Randy. Right now, lore totals are pretty low, so neither player under a lot of distress. So now it's all about board positioning. No play for Matthew. We're gonna sing Friends on the Other Side, draw 3, or draw 2, excuse me. And then now, hopefully, we hit an inkable. Looks like we found an Olaf, so we can play that into a 5-drop. Here's Mad Hatter. Back Matthew
Love
Campo's way.
love playing Mad Hatter here. Be prepared could be the play next turn. A 2-for-1 isn't the end of the world, but your Cusco can be really annoying for this Ruby Amethyst deck. So not playing it into that turn is going to be really nice. As we do see Aladdin come down, and then looks like Ursula is going to be the play here.
Yeah, it looks pretty good against the 2 damage Rafiki because it can chunk on in. It also draws a card, and Matthew might just want to be looking for things like 8-drop Elsa to, the game is not at a point where Matthew's under a lot of pressure. And something like Ursula coming down is nice because be prepared just like a turn too early.
Agreed. Ursula also putting a lot of pressure on Randy, right? Like Ursula is just going to start questing for 3 a bunch. All right. Looks like we're going to bounce that Ursula to the hand. And that's going to mean another card, another lore. But that's Matthew's whole turn if he wants it. And Randy is stepping on the gas here.
Yeah, and we're just going to cast Be Prepared and clean it up. Get all these characters off the table, and then Matthew Campo can start deploying those Ursulas again next turn. That's why the bounce effects are pretty dangerous against Ruby Amethyst. Obviously, you want to protect yourself from them challenging your stuff, and you want to get some pressure on the table with things like Genie on the Job. But here, after the sweeper effect now, it looks like Randy is going to start deploying these Cuscos and start generating a lot of lore over the next few turns.
Yeah, one thing I feel that doesn't happen enough is some of the bounce effects actually let you return your own cards, and using that as a way to fight against Be Prepared can be a really strong play.
All right, here's Ursula. We're going to put Randy back down to 5, draw a card. Found Pocket Watch. That could be a game changer in a few turns, but the most important thing I see in Matthew Campo's hand, we have 2 more copies of Be Prepared. It's going to be quite difficult for Randy to gain a foothold on this game simply because of those sweeper effects.
Yeah, those are the things that actually answer Cusco. So, this Cusco kind of is going to live against Ursula for a very long time. Be prepared as a way to actually sort of answer here. So if Randy does something like play another Cusco here, thinking like, what are you going to do? It could be disastrous.
All right, Genie on the Job. Ursula back to hand. Campo now. Probably going to play a sweeper effect here again, would be my guess.
Yeah, the Cusco is such a good hit, and then the Genie, you would almost be happy to be preparing just the Cusco proper. So getting the extra card is very reasonable and very appealing to make it your turn.
Yeah, maybe that's a good reason to play something besides Genie that turn because it's such a juicy board for a second copy of Be Prepared. But Ramsey here, maybe playing for the super long game, knows that those Be Prepares are coming and just wants to go ahead and make Matthew fire them off so he can deploy a bunch of smaller characters like these Tinkerbells and Rafikis and things like that.
Speaking of those, here they come. Eyeballing the stopwatch still. That's a really powerful play with Aladdin Heroic Outlaw, which we might see get set up now so that if Randy goes to questing, their Aladdin can come down and really take over things.
I think I see an Elsa in Campo's hand. I would maybe like to get that down first just to start threatening the characters, but maybe instead you just want to play something else. Ursula here is always fine. Drains for one, draws a card. You know, you're slowly gaining some of those precious life points back, and another be prepared for Campo, and that actually might be two more be prepared in hand. So very difficult for Randy to fight through these. We'll see if he can do it.
Yeah, definitely is prepared. There are two more there, so it's going to be all four. And from Campo's position, I feel like I don't know. I feel like you just want to get the pocket watch down because pocket watching into Elsa and into Aladdin and into your Ursula is just like actually lets you start answering these things because yes, getting the lore off of Randy is good, but you're gonna get it probably no matter what. So you just need to maximize your mana for your ink for the most turns possible. So we'll have to see what Campo's approach and plan is because it could be a sing with the Ursula here.
All right, here's a Mother Gothel, but that does let Be Prepared come down off of the Ursula, and then we're going to follow it up with an Aladdin, and this is going to threaten to do some serious damage later on. And if Randy plays something that can be targeted by the Elsa, then Aladdin's going to get to chew it up. We'll see if he has a Cusco or another smaller character. Be prepared. Such a big sweeper in the game and an iconic card for sure, both from the Aladdin King movie as well. Not the Aladdin, the Lion King movie, as well as just a very powerful card in this game engine itself.
Agreed.
Oh, you ever seen that movie, Aladdin King?
Oh, I was right next to I believe it was called Lilo and Mermaid at the box
Yes,
office. Yeah.
the Lilo Mermaid. I saw that one.
Yeah. Ohana means seashell.
All right. Here's Aladdin gonna attack and gain some lore and drain some lore. And Elsa freezing the Rafiki means it's not going to be able to challenge the Aladdin next turn. So potentially the Aladdin going to get to do it all over again on the follow up. Back Randy's way. He knows he's in trouble. Oh, the Rafiki should be frozen. Let's get the director to go over there real quick. We need to stop this right now. Oh, he's got it, I think. Okay, I thought he was using it to sing for a second, and I thought we were going to have a serious problem. No harm, no foul.
Yeah.
Duke is Ink. We got Jasper. We got Cusco. Back Compo's way.
Yeah, and this is what Matthew Campo is trying to set up. Even if we trade this Aladdin for the Rafiki, it's like, all right, we got 2 cards, 4 lore of yours gone, 4 lore of mine gained. And now Elsa is as strong as Cusco, and you're up on the lore. So the race favors you, and you have cards like Maui that can come down and answer in the next turn. And you have Pocket Watch for your Aladdins. So this is why Ruby Amethyst Control is one of the most popular and best decks right now in Lorcana. As
All right, here's Pocket Watch. Not doing anything this turn, but getting it down now is nice.
yeah, Pocket Watch very strong, a little clunky to get going. So taking a time now while you're sort of slightly ahead and you don't have much else you really want to do is a great time to develop it.
All right, looks like a handful of gas for Campa. We got Maleficent 9, Maui Hero to All. Looks like a brave little Taylor. And with that Pocket Watch, I don't think Randy's able to get out of this one. I think this game's basically over. It'll end in the next few turns for sure, and then we'll have a game number 3. Jasper questing means Elsa can't quest. Jasper card not seeing a whole lot of play right now. Its stats are, I wouldn't say weak, but they are not as strong in combat as they could be, and it's more of like a card that likes to race against other things that like to quest.
Yeah, and with being an inkable card, right? It's sort of just a body that gets you some lore. That's pretty good against the control decks. And then in the mirrors, it means, oh, now Hans isn't questing for 3 lore next turn, and that swings the race pretty dramatically.
All right, here comes the dragon. That can't target a Cusco, but it can target the Jasper. And the Elsa still can't quest though, so this is a little awkward.
This is a huge misstep. We talked about how the game might be over. I think Matthew having to do it like this just creates a very awkward position, but maybe he likes his Mauis in other spots.
Yeah, I would have loved just like trading for Jasper or like eating Jasper with an attack and then using Maui to trade for the Cusco. That seemed like a pretty medium use of a Maleficent, if I do say so. But here's a Hans off the top. This is going to quest for 3 if you're not careful.
Yeah, and this is why the dragon was so important to save, right? Imagine if this turn we had played the dragon, killed the Hans, trade with the Cusco, the board's empty, right? But now we're like questing, and Randy's gonna get 3, and what if Randy just draws Cusco? The game will be over.
Right. All right, we're going to play a Pongo. We're going to quest for 3 up to 12. Both players at 12. Randy Webbing is mostly on empty, does have a Hans in play, needs to find another Cusco or something similar here to keep the train rolling. We're going to quest up to 15. See what else he's got. Here's a Cheshire Cat. That's pretty good too.
Yeah, that one will make racing a little awkward if Matthew tries to control the board with a non-Maui card. We picked up another Ursula, which honestly swings the math pretty well.
Well, we can actually quest for 5 here up to 17, and then Ursula actually makes it so Randy can't quest for lethal next turn. And so I think that this is what Matthew is seeing, and he's like, oh, we're just gonna okay, we're gonna brave little Taylor and attack. I thought we were losing the game.
No, we're just gonna take down the Hans, I guess, and call it a day.
All right, that's fair. That's fair. Cheshire Cats, what you got? Not enough. Packing it in. Randy Webbing loses game number 2, but we got the decider coming up here. Game number 3. The winner of this match is almost guaranteed, if not mortally locked, for our top 8 rounds. The winner of this event will receive $500 and an invite to our $5,000 TCG Player Lorcana Invitational that we'll be holding on October 20th weekend. Make sure to hit the follow button if you're in chat and you haven't already. We plan on bringing you lots of Lorcana content over the next few months as we are getting our tournament series underway, as well as promoting our $5,000 Lorcana Invitational that October 20th weekend. Big shout out to our sponsors for that event. So far, we have Ultimate Guard. Thank you so much for providing us with some awesome swag to give to our players, as well as TCG Player, your best bet for a marketplace for anything TCG related. If you need Magic cards, you need Pokemon cards, Yu-Gi-Oh cards, if you need Lorcana cards, check out tcgplayer.com. I run out of stuff to say.
You can find the One Piece on tcgplayer.com.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, I know quite a few people who work over at TCG Player. I had the pleasure of speaking to one, Mr. Reed Duke. I know he works on the Channel Fireball side of things, but it was nice getting to talk to him and connect with them. And we're very excited to have TCG Player on board with us for our invitational. It's going to be quite the spectacle, quite the event. We're hoping y'all can come out and visit us at the Apex Gaming home store in Caldwell, Ohio on that October 20th weekend. Make sure to head to apexgaming.gg for more information. We're going to have not only the main event, the $5,000 invitational with 12 invited guests and 4 qualifiers, but we're also going to be running 2 $2,000 open events, one on Saturday and one on Sunday. So a lot of festivities to be had on that weekend. So make sure to head on out to Apex Gaming's home store in Caldwell, Ohio on October 20th weekend.
I'm excited to be there. I'm going to get to play in the event. I'm gonna game some gamers. It's gonna be a good time. I'm showing up on Thursday night so that I can hang out Friday and watch the LCQs happen. Should be fun.
All right, we got a Pascal to lead off here for Randy Webbing. Game number 3 is underway. Matthew Campo going to challenge it with Archimedes, but if Randy Webbing can just put a 1 or a 2 drop character on the table, then Pascal will have evasive and be much harder to interact with. Here we go. Here's Flynn Rider. It's going to quest for 2 and punish a challenge. Matthew Campo's way.
Yeah, and we saw Campo be a little hesitant with Archimedes in game number 1. I'd like to see if he's willing to, quest up here now and sort of, offer the trades there. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I think maybe just a minor misstepping in game number 1 or 2, whichever one he didn't quest early. I'm not going to give him too much guff about it, but now he's learned from his mistakes, and he is questing for 1. Going back Randy Webbing's way, we're going to quest for 3 and play Cheshire Cats.
Yeah, and Cheshire Cat, really nice in these early games as a way to sort of keep your board control while luring up, right? And that's such a unique element of like, oh, I'm luring, but also kind of putting pressure on you to answer this.
All right. Ink 3 for Campo. Do we have the dreaded Rafiki? This 3-cost beater is a way to rush down, but no, we just have a draw 2. Friends on the other side. Gaston and Archimedes here can do some stuff. Archimedes is going to be the one to challenge the Flynn Rider, and we're going to be discarding Magic Mirror. Flynn Rider is going to be sent to the discard pile. And Gaston, while it does have to attack if able, the Pascal is unable to be challenged, so the Gaston can wait around and hopefully trade with something like Cusco or that Cheshire Cat later on.
Yeah. We're going to sing a friend from the other side.
Cheshire Cat, a bit stronger than I originally thought, but, doesn't rumble in combat too well.
Yeah, Cheshire Cat really demands that you are on the front foot and sort of leading the game. If you're behind, it's not very good, but if like you're setting the pace of the play, it really forces your opponent's hand.
Yeah, I think Emerald does a great job of having these really cool Punisher mechanics if your opponent's interacting with you at all, and or at least in the challenge realm.
Mm-hmm.
All right, here's 4. See what Matthew Campo wants to deploy.
Looks like.
I'm gonna go. That was mostly for the mirrors. Gaston's going to trade for Cheshire Cat. And looks like we're still unable to get there with the Archimedes, and we're not gonna quest with it. I guess that's fair at this point. You want to maybe use that to guarantee you can knock down Flynn Rider, and you don't want to have yourself vulnerable to an opposing Rafiki in that spot when you're trying to play defensive. So I like not questing on that turn. Here it is, Mad Hatter, the powerful 5-drop from Randy Webbing, a Punisher mechanic on that as well. Whenever you challenge it, draw a card. And if you have to challenge it with multiple things, guess what? Draw 2 cards.
Yep. If you're new to the card game sphere and Lorcana is your first one, Punisher typically means if you're going to do something to my card, something negative will happen to your card as you get punished for touching my cards.
All right, now Pongo does have evasive, so it can challenge the Pascal here. All right, Pongo. Nom 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 nom. He's a good boy.
Yeah, Pongo is a nice tech card. We talked about tech cards at the start of this round. It's a great way to sort of have a little bit of game in the mirror. And also, when you play against these, Emerald decks or these Emerald Ruby decks that have a bunch of evasive creatures, you have a way to actually interact with them that isn't just Dragon Fires and Maleficents and Be Prepared.
All right, well, Pongo does eat that Pascal, and now it looks like Archimedes is probably going to go after Flynn Rider and discard a card.
Yeah, it looks like we're figuring out exactly when to discard. Yeah, discarding else. So like we mentioned before, Flynn Rider in the early game into this developing to start to the mid game is a very sort of challenging card for your opponent because they kind of need to be playing things on curve, but they also need ink, and making them discard a card is really devastating in that department.
All right. 2 cards, but full retail for the cost. No singing involved. Getting the Maui down as a preemptive measure to use your ink efficiently makes sense. We're going to go ahead and quest for 3 up to 11. And now, if Campo wants to trade with it, Randy seems happy about it. We're going to ink a Megara and probably play another 3-drop. Is it going to be Friends or Rafiki? It's a Rafiki. Back Campo's way.
I like getting this Rafiki on the board. We need to have a board presence. The Maui's going to eat our Mad Hatter. We just need to get in as much lore as we can before cards like Be Prepared, Maleficent, etc. start coming down. So I like this. It's probably end up just going to be a lore for oneer, but that is fine when we have so many big lore cards coming.
Yeah, but you can trade with the Maui if you really need to, just to protect some of your larger willpower characters. It's not ideal. You never really want to send your character into Maui because it's a forced attack, but they can often attack in such ways that leave it still sitting around.
Yeah. I think Matthew is just going to do that work for you, but it can be close with Tink coming in.
All right, that's going to grant evasive, so that's going to kill the Pongo. Nicely done. 2 damage on the Rafiki. We'll see if he has a follow-up here. We're going to ink another Megara. We're going to draw 2 off Friends of the other side. Okay. Back Campo's way. A lot of action here for both players. A lot of cards being drawn. Here's a Magic Mirror. That one's a little wonky in this spot. Can't really use your resources to do anything with it right now. And here, as you can see, because we didn't trade Rafiki into Maui, the Maui is going to still stick around and potentially threaten something like Cusco or Mad Hatter on a following turn.
Yeah, I really kind of wish we had done with the Maui if we get Tinkerbell to answer the Pongo too, and we were going to be doing trades. You know what I mean? It feels like we're playing into the game Matthew wants to play, and if Matthew doesn't have ink on turn 7 with the Magic Mirror in play, the hand is all uninkables, basically, which are all of the strong removal cards. So you're in like the top end bomb. So you need to be pretty careful here.
Yeah, I mean, Randy's actually playing this one nicely, I think. With these evasive characters, it's going to be hard for Maui to get much of an advantage. And so using the Rafiki to take care of the Pongo means that there aren't going to be any like 2-pronged tricks that allow you to deal with these Tinkerbells on the other side of the table.
Does look like we drew a Gaston, which I think it was the draw, which is mana. It looks like it wasn't actually. Sorry, it was a Be Prepared. So part of the high uninkables in Ruby Amethyst means sometimes this happens to you.
All
And
right, here it goes. Quest for 4 up to 17.
yeah,
Now, there's only 5 ink, so there's no Be Prepared possible. So Randy Webbing says, hey, shields are down. I'm going to just deploy my big drops.
yeah, we have to draw an ink this turn so we can Dragonfire and then Be Prepared the next. But if we miss on the ink, it might just be game over here.
I mean, even so, these Tinkerbells have evasive, and the Mother Gothel's not exerted. So even a Dragon's Fire is not enough because you still gain 4 next turn. So I believe Campo is dead. That's what I believe.
Yes, yeah. Sorry, I thought Tinkerbell did 1 for some reason. That was my mistake.
Now that's because a lot of the Tinkerbells only quest for 1, but this one quests for 2. It's quite good. It's basically Pongo with 4 other abilities, which is great.
Yeah. And we're seeing here what happens when you kind of miss and you don't fight over the board. And yeah, you just pick up our cards. Matthew falling to 2-1-1. Still has a chance to make top 8. We might see him in our elimination rounds, but congratulations to our other player making it in.